Hello, I'm Merrill April, a partner in CM Murray, and I'm joined today by Yulia Fedorenko, an associate in CM Murray. And we've been talking recently about the 4-day week and how that might impact on some of our multinational employers. So we thought we'd just take 10 minutes or so to talk through some of our ideas around the 4-day week. Yulia, what are your thoughts?
So yes, 4-day working week is a hot topic these days, and there are many articles written about it. And what it essentially does, it offers a lot of flexibility to employees, but there is no clarity as to the working arrangements, whether you just are not working on Friday.
I'm glad you said that because certainly it's true in London that you come in on Friday and it's dead, whereas Tuesday to Thursday it's a different story. But no, it's not people just not working on Fridays. It's actually a big global project of which the UK is part, and we've done a 6-month pilot scheme, which I found really interesting because it's rare that you get a project that stretches across so many jurisdictions on something that could be so fundamental as people continuing to work for 4 days, but being paid for five, effectively. So it seemed to me that that was something quite worth looking into. And indeed, it covers quite a lot of sectors. I think it's about 30 different sectors and 3,000 employees in the UK, 60 to 70 companies. And as the pilot's coming to an end, we've started to see some feedback coming out of it as to whether or not there's going to be any take up and how it works. And so all of those things are interesting. Someone did say to me before we had this chat, well, what are you doing talking about a 4-day week when maybe there's a recession coming and actually we just need everyone to work harder and longer? But I think there is also a trend that we've seen today, actually, with announcements by KFC, where in certain sectors there is actually a talent shortage, and employers are looking for ways where they can incentivize and attract employees. So your point about flexibility is just so spot on, because this, I think, could be something really quite attractive for appropriate employers. But also important if employers are operating across different jurisdictions. And I know you've looked a bit more into the international aspects and just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about that, and maybe Belgium in particular.
Yeah, so as far as we know, quite a few countries are trying 4-day working week these days. And with Belgium, they're actually already implementing a new law that will allow employees to request a 4-day working week. But what essentially it does, employees will be condensing 5-day working week in a 4-day working week. So they'll be working 10 hours per day, which might be a bit too excessive. So once the law is implemented, employees will have a right to request to work 4 days per week. And employer can only refuse if there are really good reasons for that. And once the request is approved, they will have 6 months trial period just to see how it works. And after that, they will review it. And if both employee and employer are happy to continue with the new pattern, then they will still work in that particular way. So in a way, it's a really good law that will allow many to have flexibility and have an extra day off. But in a way, that might increase burnout for employees because essentially you'll be working really long days. And it might also impact on performance and might also expose employers to potential claims in case if employers become sick because they will be working long hours. So it might be a tricky situation with this new law, but I guess we'll see once it is implemented.
Yeah, thank you. I can see that. And I think we're going to come back at the end just to sort of sum up what we think about where the UK might go. But that really flags up one of the big issues, I think, on this topic, doesn't it? About productivity and how do you assess it? And people like the CIPD have been looking into it. And actually, I saw one report that said they thought maybe as little as 1% of UK employers would adopt this kind of 4-day working week where they pay for 5 days, but the person only works four. And I saw that some of their economists behind that report had said you wouldn't just need productivity to be up by the 20% that you're losing, but actually by a whopping 25% in order to make this sort of workable from an employer's point of view. So it seems that there are a lot of barriers. And one thing that strikes me is it very much depends on the sector, because how do you work out how much work is being done, particularly if traditionally it's maybe time that counts rather than some kind of output of how many gadgets are made within an hour or whatever. And so, have you seen any examples of professional services or financial services actually tackling this and trying out this kind of 4-day working week?
Yes, actually, there is digital bank also taking part in this trial. It's called Atom, and it has been doing really, really well since the trial has started. So they actually concluded that 91% of its employees actually managed to do all the required work. And also, since the trial started, they've seen 500% increase in their job applications. So yeah, they're doing really, really well. But their CPO actually said that it's all about planning and reviewing process. So you just need to make sure that you plan well ahead and that you review what has been done so far. So yes, they're doing really well, and I think it's also important with financial sectors to review if employees meet their KPIs. And if they manage to do that, then yes, perfect. You know, maybe that structure really works for you. But I can also see that for some, it might not work because you need to be able to be very, very flexible. And if you don't have that flexibility, if you're not able to provide the same level of service to your customers or clients, then they might go to a competitor as a result. So there is a risk there. And in terms of professional services like law firms, I mean, lawyers have to record their hours. So it's all we have to do that. And I think it would be very difficult to record all the required hours within a 4-day working week. So I think it would be pretty much impossible, and that will put a lot of pressure on lawyers and everyone else who operates on the same level to complete their job on time. So yeah, I think it'll be quite difficult.
Yeah, I think you're right. Those are really interesting points, though, about planning and review and amazing statistics, 500% increase in applications. So I guess, if someone is interested in looking at it, there's a potential incentive there to give it a try with all the points that you've made on planning and review. So I think just sort of bringing it back to reality and what employers should do next and what's likely to happen. I think for all the reasons you and I have discussed, we think it's unlikely that there'll be legislative change. It doesn't look as if the UK is going down the Belgium route and strengthening the right to request flexible working in this particular way. So maybe that will be a relief to some employers. But there again, as I say, there may be some sectors for whom this is something that they really do want to look into, having heard some of the arguments for. And I noticed that Unilever had actually recently decided to extend a pilot from New Zealand to Australia for the 4-day working week. And what interested me about that were the drivers for doing that. I have to say, before I get onto that there is a section of their workforce that they've not been able to include in that for the reasons we've discussed, that they're shift workers and they need to put in that time. But for the rest of their workforce, they're going to do that. And their first driver was revenue growth, which is obviously really important in the current climate. They also experienced a happier workforce and I think 30% less absenteeism, which was quite impressive. And my favorite one, which is probably not the most important one, but a massive reduction in internal meetings, no
Right.
doubt.
Yeah.
On their core work. So yeah, I think to sum up that we predict that not many employers will be able to move to a 4-day working week, still paying for 5 days. But over the next 5 to 10 years, a number of employers may be looking to make that change with consent. And there may be employees that want to, approach their employers for that. And the recession may indeed mean that for a period of time to get through it, employers and workers may agree to reduce by 20%, presumably with a consequential reduction in pay. So if you're in any of those situations as an employer or thinking about any such things, it's very, very important, as Yulia already said, to get some advice early and plan and prepare, because there's a number of claims that can arise out of attempts to change people's working hours and pay. So we would love to hear from you if you have any questions, if you have any examples of how the 4-day week has been working in your organization, whether you're an executive or an employer looking to implement. We would love to hear from you, and please do not hesitate to contact either Yulia or myself. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.